Hello, my name is Agnes, and it's been a while. It's been a while since I posted something. And the reason for that is quite simple, actually. I'm just very, very tired. Not specifically of making videos. Like I expressed before, to me this is a form of therapy and self-improvement. But tired of being tired, if that makes sense. As it turns out, I have autism. Something that nobody in my family suspected while I was growing up. Despite all of the weirdness and all of the signs and everything. And I don't blame them. You know, things were different back then. And even to this day, there is this very strange notion that autism is just like this one thing. It's this one thing, right? It's when you are non-verbal. It's when you keep making weird movements and noises at inappropriate times. It's when you have some sort of intellectual disability. It is when you all know the stereotypes. I won't be repeating them here. And while it is definitely true that a lot of autistic people experience the world in that manner, it is not true that this is the case for every autistic person. Because autism is not like this one singular monolithic thing. It's very what's the word? It's a very broad term for a variety of ways in which a person can develop. And sure, some people are gonna fall more within the given stereotypes. Others, not so much. And that's because people are complex. There isn't a single manifestation of autism. There isn't like a thing that you can look for in a person and say, aha, autism. Because that's just not how it works. It's an array of different developmental variations that exist not in a spectrum, in several spectrums, in fact. You know, um, people will look at you and say, wow, but you're not autistic. You don't look autistic. You don't sound autistic. You are so social. You're so intelligent. You're so creative. Um, all of these tired talking points that people have that come from ignorance, you know, not malice, just ignorance. Just from not knowing better, as is often the case with people. They tend to not know very well what is different from their own lived experience, and that's fine, so long as you seek to educate yourself, right? And I'm here to talk about how autism has affected me personally and how it has shaped my life and how it affects how my day-to-day goes. Starting, I think, from the beginning. I don't have memories of this, but my mom has told me that when I was a kid, I would have very, very extreme reactions to loud noises and sounds. You know, I suppose it's normal for children to have adverse reactions to noise, but the way I acted was a bit out of the curve for that kind of stuff. And that never ever truly really went away. You know, whenever I'm on the streets for whatever reason and I'm talking to someone and a bus or a motorcycle or a truck or an otherwise exceedingly loud vehicle passes by, I simply freeze. I just freeze. There's no contents inside my head during that time. I stop talking, not because it is too loud and people won't hear me. I stop talking because I stop thinking until the sound is gone. And if people insist on trying to talk to me during this time, I will get actually distressed because it's just more noise, more stuff that I need to process all at once, and it is very, very tiresome. Towards the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, I was still living with my parents, and our house went through renovations, right? Specifically, my dad was replacing the tiles of most of the entire house. Most. And that meant a lot of drilling, breaking things. It meant a lot of just noise in general. Like a lot of noise every day, or almost every day. Even during times when I should be asleep. And it's not as weird as it sounds. I will get there eventually on the sleep thing. But the sound was so loud, constant, and unbearable to me that I actually broke and had a panic attack, which in turn triggered another panic attack. And I just snapped at my father, and we had a discussion, we had a fight. I'm not proud of that. I'm deeply, deeply regretful for what happened there. Even if it was completely outside of my control, I couldn't, I had no control over my actions or words in that particular moment, but still, I feel bad about it. Because, you know, that's not how you treat the person who spends every waking moment doing absolutely everything he can to make sure that you have the best life possible even after you've reached adulthood, right? My father has always been a very, very strong and working man, and I admire him very much for it. And we've had our differences many, many times in the past stuff, but truthfully, none of that matters. He's my father, and I love him. I doubt he's watching this. He he doesn't. Well, he speaks very little English, and you know, that 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 wasn't that wasn't a very good experience to have. Um, and it was all because of noise. I didn't have inherently any objections to the renovation itself, other than, aesthetic preferences, but who gives a shit about that? And like, he built that house. I think he gets to choose what it looks like at any given time. The problem was really just the noise. It was too much. On top of that, my whole life, or for most of my life actually, at this point, I just had this persistent migraine that never really went away unless I took medicines, but then it was immediately back, like after like just a little bit of time. And it sucked. I thought, this is normal. Some people have migraines. It's just kind of how it goes. As it turns out, I am extremely, extremely photophobic, meaning I have a strong sensitivity to light. My little eyes are made out of paper. And, I wear these prescription glasses, and they darken whenever I am exposed to sunlight, whenever they are exposed to sunlight. And not even that was enough to fully stop the pain. Not even that could fully stop the pain, only sort of diminish it. Turn it from like what would otherwise have been an unbearable head pounding brain explosion into just a very uncomfortable migraine that I eventually kind of grew used to and thought was normal. And I attributed it to not sleeping well, being stressed out, all of that kind of stuff. But as soon as I dropped out of school, which I did so because it was simply too much for all of the reasons that I have already mentioned and will still mention here in this video, plus a whole host of other things that escape the scope of this video, of this discussion. I noticed that my migraines disappeared. And why? What had changed exactly to make them disappear? Well, the answer to that was quite simple. I have a nocturnal biological clock. I sleep better during the day, you know, uh, and I am most active during the night. In fact, the best sleeping schedule for me is to go to sleep at um, at dawn and wake up in the middle of the afternoon or close to dusk, because that's just what works for me. It's what makes me feel nice and well disposed, or as well disposed as I can be, at least like a baseline. And you know, when you just have like this nagging sensation or pain or whatever that has just kind of always been there, and you know it's there, but it's been there so long that you just you just don't think about it anymore. It's just normal. But the very instant that it is gone, you instantly notice how fucked it was. Well, that's that's what it felt like switching from a uh, diurnal schedule to a nocturnal one. I started feeling better, and I realized, hey, I'm not made to be awake when the sun is up. It took a lot of convincing uh, to make my parents accept this notion that apparently is just so alien to them, but eventually they understood. I mean, what can they do about it anyways? I'm an adult now. Uh, Living in my own house and everything. Those are the two major sensory things for me. It's light and sound. If I'm exposed to too much light, and by too much light, I really just mean like daylight levels of light, I I actually get like debilitated and extremely exhausted and in pain. And that's something that I was going through for a very long time, and I just got used to it, which is fucked. Nobody should get used to that kind of stuff. That's not okay. That is extremely not okay. And so I mostly exist at night, in the silence, in an environment where I can control uh, what kind of stimulus I am exposed to. And it isn't just sound and uh, it isn't just sound and light that bothers me. You know, textures can send shivers down my spine, to quote a certain song. And and my sensory profile is so strange that I have this thing apparently called synesthesia. It really does not affect how my life is lived, like in any tangible sort of way that like would require accommodations or anything like that. It's just that I can taste colors, and I thought that it was normal for my entire life. I thought it was normal until I discovered that there is a name for that, and no, that's not normal. Most people do not taste colors. And then I started asking my friends and family, hey, you know about this? And they were like, what? No. And that's, you know, how I figured out yet another way in which I'm weird. But this is a very harmless sort of way. It's just kind of whimsical and fun. Uh, is that a town or a temple ahead in the middle of that clearing? I don't know. But over there in the horizon, it's definitely a town. You know, originally this video was meant to be a commentary on the vastness of Daggerfall, since recently I've been getting into the game, I've been learning its systems, I've been more capable of actually role-playing within it. I have found mod configuration that makes the game pleasant and enjoyable to me. I really like traversing the vast wilderness. Uh, it's not worth it to me to have such a huge world if I'm gonna be fast traveling everywhere, you know? Like that doesn't really register in my head as something that makes sense. I'll take a bit of a detour, and after resting a little, I'm gonna head for that little place, see what's up. And if nothing much is up, I'm gonna go to that town, make some trading. I need to sell some things and buy other things. In any case, continuing. Despite accommodations that very gracefully the people in my life have made for me and continue to make for me. You know, my wife, my mother, my father, even my friends, whenever we are hanging out. It's still exhausting to just kind of exist for me. And I know that sounds like something a very, very depressed person would say, but I don't mean it in the sense of, oh my god, I wanna die. I mean it in the sense of, I'm here, I like being here. It's just that here is kind of tiresome. I don't have the energy to do much in my day-to-day life because the world itself is kind of hostile to my existence. I can't even go outside without feeling sick. You know, I tried forcing myself to do it, just to take the trash out for the sake of my wife. You know, do something for her, which is part of a grander point that I want to eventually reach in this video. I just wanted to do something for her, right? I wanted to be a good wife to my wife and ease her burdens a little bit. How do I pick only a fraction of these items? Oh, I see. 5 is good. And simply doing that caused me to feel extremely exhausted and so sick that I genuinely thought I was gonna start crying and maybe vomiting at any moment. Thankfully I didn't, because I managed to cope with the situation. But that was fueled by a general sense of uselessness, of feeling like I don't really add much of anything of worth to the people around me, that they have to carry me around and take care of me, and I don't contribute because I'm always exhausted, and my routine consists of eating, sleeping, helping in extremely small, basically insignificant ways whenever I can. There's that caveat. And just playing Elder Scrolls because I love Elder Scrolls. Obviously not more than I love my wife. She means the world to me. That's why all of the efforts that I make for her. And prior to even doing all of this effort to take the trash out and everything, going outside, it was literally just crossing the street during the day. You know, I was feeling so bad about myself and so terrible that I was just doing. I was just doing everything I could possibly do. Washing dishes, uh, cleaning our dog's mess, uh, you know, wiping the floor, collecting trash, putting the trash in the trash, and throwing the trash outside. You know, doing all of these things while the house was completely illuminated by natural lights. And before somebody says use shades, how am I supposed to use shades while I'm dependent on prescription glasses? Put them over? Yes, but then they will fall, and that's not good. Also, they don't really do that much to help me, unless you have like dark room levels of light filtering shades that I can use. And all of that effort ultimately just, you know, ended up with me feeling extremely sick, as I already said. Yes, of course, I helped. I, I, I did what I wanted to do. Help. But at the cost of overexerting myself way beyond my own limits that I am aware of. Which is just no way to do things, right? I'm just messing myself up doing that. And my sweet lady actually, came with this little bit of wisdom to me that, these things, they need to be established with a routine. I can't just go ham like that. I can't just go and do things until I am collapsing. A routine needs to be established. But that's the real problem, isn't it? It's routine. I have a hard time with that. I don't know how to get there. To me, that is a challenge, because I, as an autistic person, in my particular case, am an extremely rigid individual. I have trouble changing. I have trouble changing. I think that is the simplest way that I can put it. I like routine. I like to follow a set schedule. And I hate when there's sudden change. Of course, life changes. It's part of it, right? My life changed when I moved in with my wife, and it was a good change, obviously. However, I now need to adapt myself. Even back when I was living with my parents, I was still constantly always trying my very best to help them out, at home. And it was hard because that was not a habit that, was developing in me ever since I was just a child. That is something that had to come later. So it was something that I had to get used to. And that sucks. I feel, and I can't stress this enough, I feel very useless as a result, because it is genuinely hard to me on like a neurological level to just make simple adjustments to my way of living, to the point where it takes me months, maybe even years, to just start doing things a different way than I was doing before. Going back to the discussion I had with my father, that disrupted in me the rhythm I had developed for writing. And what can I say? For a year, I was writing every single day. building upon my little world, and I was so happy that I had finally managed to achieve that level of productivity after so many years trying to get there, only for that to last a year. You know, that kind of broke me, and even now I'm still trying my best to go back uh, to that style of writing, to that rhythm that I had going. But it's difficult because routine does not come easily for me. Or rather, change in routine does not come easily. Routine itself is my preferred state. I like it, and in fact prefer it when things are the same every day, when they don't change, when they don't have sudden variations in what's going on, and I can expect more or less the same thing of each and every day that passes. That feels correct to me personally, and I like living that way. But not necessarily out of preference, simply because that's just how I'm hardwired. And so here I am now, trying to be more useful, trying to return to a productive state of being in which I am able to every day be writing again and building on my world. And I have specific times of the day where I go do my obligations. And most of all, I want to be able to do all of that without feeling completely exhausted like at the end of a single activity. But that can only happen once it becomes routine. But until then it will be exhausting, so I'm stuck in this vicious cycle of uselessness. And that has been really messing me up for a long time. But especially so today when I'm recording this. I'm sorry if I repeated myself too much. Um, I was just kind of putting things out of my heart here and hoping that someone somewhere would be able to relate and understand what I'm talking about. It's not like I'm not trying. It's not like I'm lazy. It's not like I'm not doing my best. It's just that most days my best isn't enough, and it takes a very long time for me to be able to make even simple minor adjustments to the way I live my life, even if they are beneficial and things that I actually want to do. And that sucks. But such is my life. I'm someone who literally lives in the dark, is a shut-in, and I can make an entire video on why I choose to be that way, though hints, very explicit hints, can probably be inferred just from what I've said here alone. And I guess the message here is that despite all of this, I'm still trying my best every day it would have been very easy to just give up. But I have people who believe in my potential. People who have literally worked to ensure that I have a happy and fulfilling life. I have a loving wife, loving parents, amazing friends, and even people who I don't personally know that somehow are aware of my works. I say somehow, but I know exactly how. And enjoy them. They, I have fans of an unpublished work, and that is insane to me. And I don't want to disappoint anybody. Oh. I don't wanna let my disability, my neurodivergence, my condition define my life in such a way that I become unable to achieve better things. Of course, it is part of me and I'll never get rid of it. But I will get better. And know that if you are in a similar situation, you can get better too. It will take a lot of time, it'll take a lot of dedication, a lot of maintenance. But once it becomes routine, it becomes comfortable. And that's of course directed at all the fellow autistics who thrive in a routine. Because, like I said, not everyone is the same. Not everyone is the same. It's especially bad when you explain in exact words what your limitations are and what the experience is for you. And how bad it all feels. You know? And how much it affects your life. And people still say, you know, just try more, just do better, just ever thought about actually just doing the things? Yes, I have. And I want to, but a lot of the time I just can't. Because I'm perpetually tired. If you endured my ramblings up until this point, I thank you very much. And I commend you, because how? How did you do that? I want to know. See you all in the next one, whenever that is.